The clock is ticking on Pep Guardiola's time as Manchester City manager, but GQ magazine have recently held an interview with Pep Guardiola that has resurfaced some of the uncertainty about his future, some interesting comments from Pep Guardiola. It's an amazing interview. Amazing interview. I'm going to read some of the best bits to you. Make sure you go and read the full thing though, because it's such a good interview. The first bit I wanted to read to you was just like, what? Sorry, what? What's going on, Pep? Talking about the player welfare, the health department, the player care department, saying, that's it, we treat the players well. The team's nutritionists are fantastic. We have a player care department that takes care of them. Their families, their children, they find them schools, gynecologists, paediatricians. Gynecologists. No wonder we were shit last season. Do you know what I mean? These players are full of insecurities, getting their female reproductive organs examined, then walking onto the pitch with a cock and balls between their legs. Like, what's that doing there? What is that? Where did that come from? What's going on here? Pep, what are you doing? I know we've got a female team, but you're the male manager. You manage the men's team, Pep. Why are you sending Erling Haaland to have his vagina examined? What's going on, Pep? Hey? Something very unusual about this situation there. I feel like that's surely a slip of the tongue, no pun intended. But seriously, what's going on there? What is going on there? But anyway, he continues talking more about the football side of it, which is still like way more interesting than what I just brought to your attention. But talking about last season being a failure, this is where it gets interesting now. Pep says, I don't think I'd attribute it so much to last year, but rather to the last 7 years. When you win 6 Premier Leagues, there comes a time when you go downhill. It's human nature. Back then, we probably should have moved more players, but it's very easy to say that after the fact. It's a process that had to be experienced, which took longer to happen. And when it happened, it went deeper than we could have imagined. Not deep in the sense of ending badly, because in the end, we reached the FA Cup final and finished 3rd, not 12th. It hasn't gone so badly, which I agree. A bit of perspective there from Pep Guardiola, which is very much appreciated. I think a lot of City fans are looking at this news or potential outcome of this GQ magazine as Pep's finally on his way, which is, I think you're going to get educated. I'm not so sure that it guarantees Pep Guardiola's exit, but he continues talking about last season in particular being a failure. One thing about sports is that you can't always win every competition you play. You know why? Because it's impossible. Impossible. So you lose sometimes? Well, yes, that's part of the sports. Michael Jordan was the greatest. He won 6 rings playing for 15 years. He lost more than he won. Tiger Woods was the greatest. He won 14 Grand Slams. Do you know how many he's played in his life? More than 100. He lost more than he won. In sports, you lose more than you win. I've played in 16 leagues and won 13. So yes, I've lost some, but it hasn't gone so badly. That's an education right there. Pep Guardiola handing out life lessons to these people, these so-called City fans that want to see Pep Guardiola, want to see him gone, want to see the back of Pep Guardiola. You know what I mean? 13 out of 16 league titles. He's just educated you. I think he's going to do it again. I think he's about to educate a few people going into next season and maybe the season after that as well. We'll see. We'll see at the end of next season, won't we? And I'm looking forward to it. I really am. Pep Guardiola then answers questions about how long he sees himself coaching for. I don't know, because you can also have large work groups that help you with certain things. I know that after this stage with City, I'm going to stop. That's for sure. It's decided, more than decided. I don't know how long I'll stop for. A year, 2 years, 3 years, 5, 10, 15. I don't know. But I'm going to stop after this stage with City because I need to stop and focus on myself, which I think is absolutely fair enough. I think that's a time for reflection for Pep Guardiola, but I think that sparked the uncertainty around his future now as to whether he's going to continue beyond the 2027 contract that he currently has now at Manchester City, because he's done this before, you know? I mean, the guy's been here for, it will be 10 years when he completes his contract. Over a decade of Pep Guardiola it will be, which is an unbelievable. There were people saying he's not going to last 1 year in this division. He won't survive the Premier League's ways. This ain't La Liga, mate. You can't play your tiki-taka stuff over here, they said. You know, he's just wiped the floor with the lot of you. You know, there's a lot of doubters out there. There were a lot more back then. at the beginning of his era at Manchester City. There's not quite as many mouthing off now. They've resurfaced following last season. You know, they've all gotten giddy again, seeing the fact that, Pep Guardiola, we can lose. We can lose. And then they pop their heads out of their little holes, their little bunkers that they've been hiding in for the last 9 years, bitterly watching Manchester City lift trophy after trophy after trophy. And now they're like, City are losing again. And then it's like, well, he's still here. What's to say he doesn't go and win more? And then you'll bury your heads again, and you'll probably come out of those holes again when he leaves Manchester City, which is an inevitability. It's going to happen at some point. Of course it is. It has to happen. We have to say goodbye to Pep Guardiola at some point. But the facts are that this guy's done this before. He's dangled carrots for many of you, and many of you have bitten before, that he said he was closer to leaving than staying at the end of the season before last. And everyone's like, well, that's it. Sky, the mainstream media, all reported that last season's going to be his final year. You know, all of the content creators going, that's it, Pep's done. Pep's done. Signs a new contract. 2 more years. And then it's like... and then he didn't win, and it was like, even better. So then now they get to laugh at him. But I have a funny feeling this man's going to be getting the last laugh. Don't you? I do. I certainly have a funny feeling that this is going to be him getting the last laugh. I mean, the guy's embraced Manchester. We've seen him go to an Oasis concert and just sit there like a genuine Mancunian, buzzing off listening to Noel and Liam Gallagher do their thing on stage. Brilliant. I mean, the City fans were absolutely, buzzing to see their manager, someone who was supposed to just come in and fail in his first year, 10 years later, a decade later, is giving it larger in an Oasis concert. That's just like pure poetry for Manchester City fans, that is. That's the stuff dreams are made of. You know, for Manchester City fans, the greatest manager of all time has fallen in love with your football club, with us, Manchester City, and he wants to stay with us. And not only that, he embraces our culture and wants to be like a Mancunian. He sees himself as a Mancunian, as do many of the players that come at Manchester City. We've seen the send-off for Sergio Aguero. He considers himself a Mancunian. Fernandinho, he keeps coming back. Can't get enough of us. We saw the send-off for Kevin De Bruyne. When you come here, you fall in love with us. And then you stick around. That's what Pep's doing. The greatest players in the world, Aguero, De Bruyne, the managers, the best in the world. He's done it. It's fantastic to be a Manchester City fan, but there will come a time when he goes. I personally believe it probably will be 2027 that he does actually hang up his, well, it's not his boots, is it? But his notepad, let's say, his pen and paper, whatever you want to call it, and calls it a day at the end of 2027. But I do think the trophies will play a part, because if he doesn't win anything, 2 questions come of that. If he doesn't win anything, should he be allowed to stay? Because that would therefore be 3 years without a trophy. If he gets through his whole contract without picking up another piece of silverware, that would equate to 3 years without silverware. I don't think that's going to happen, which is why I think he will go at 2027 and go out on a high. I think that's what he wants to do. He wants to go out on a high. But there is such a thing as outstaying your welcome in football, unfortunately, because there's very little room for sentimentality. I'm afraid there just isn't. As much as we love him, and as City fans, you're always welcome, Pep Guardiola. For everything that you've done, you're always welcome. There's a few small idiots that think he should be gone, that have absolutely no... They're kids. They're kids, to be honest. Let's be honest about these City fans that want Pep out. They're kids. You know full well, hiding behind their ex accounts. They daren't show their face. You know, put your face on camera and say this stuff. Make yourself accountable. You know? They're scared. They're kids. They'll when they get to their late 20s and maybe even in their 30s, they'll look back on some of the things they've said and be embarrassed. They'll be embarrassed at themselves. They really will. But there will come a time when Manchester City have to evaluate, what do we do next? Luis Enrique's contract ends in 2027. So does Vincent Kompany's. Both managers' contract end the second Pep Guardiola's contract ends, which I think is interesting. I think a lot of City fans would like to see Vincent Kompany, but he's kind of similar to like James Trafford in a way, because it's like he's got that Burnley in the Premier League problem. Like, do you know what I mean? We seem to have this connection to when Burnley are in the Premier League, they were shit, but everywhere else they were brilliant. Do you know what I mean? Same with James Trafford, same with Vincent Kompany. He's got the Bayern Munich job after failing with Burnley and getting them relegated. He gets the Bayern Munich job. So there is a reason why he got that job, though, because you received the tutelage from one Pep Guardiola. Luis Enrique, straight out of the Pep Guardiola playbook. There's subtle nuances and differences between the two managers' styles and approaches, but ultimately there's very similar approaches as well between Pep Guardiola and Luis Enrique. And I'd be very happy at Luis Enrique. My personal preference would be him, because I think there's a bit more of a certainty with him. I think we get more of a romantic story with Vincent Kompany, a little bit more poetry for the City fans to get excited about, but more uncertainty. about there's no guarantee with Kompany, but I think Kompany coming in at the time he comes in, I think it would be good for him to manage, if he did come in and manage Manchester City, to not manage players that he once played with that would look at him as an equal rather than the boss, the gaffer. You know what I mean? There needs to be that difference between manager and players. That has to happen. And if Kompany came in too soon, imagine him managing De Bruyne or Aguero, for example. Obviously, they're both gone now, which is why I think it's more ideal. But there wouldn't be that same level of respect to your peers type thing, which is interesting. Blues, what do you think? Do you think Pep Guardiola is going to extend his Manchester City stay beyond 2027? And if he doesn't, will we have won silverware? Question 1. And 2, when he goes, who do you want in as the next Manchester City manager? Let me know your thoughts, like and subscribe to Typical City, and I'll see you in the next one.
This is Typical City now, holding up silverware.